Romance readers, welcome to Illicit Liaisons with tender and tempting tales, where each week we discuss the good, the bad, and the naughty of romance fiction. I am Jenna Hart. I'm a romance author of the Southern Heat Contemporary Romance series and the Sexy Valentine Mysteries, as well as the managing editor of Tender and Tempting Tales, a steamy romance anthology for readers who like quickies. Today, our co-host is Aubree Valentine, a hopeless romantic at heart. Aubree channels her imagination and appreciation for the complexities of romance into all of her books. She enjoys exploring flawed characters, taking readers on journeys filled with chemistry and emotional twists. And when she's not penning her next novel, which she's actually doing right now, Aubree can be found binge reading or spending quality time with her family and her fur babies. Now, you can learn more about Aubree at her website, author.aubreevalentine.com. You will find links to Aubree's website, and all the books that we mention and anything else on the show will be in our show notes. And I do have to mention that Aubree did have a story in Moonlight and Margaritas, which I know you're going to want to check out because that's a beachy one. And if you're in the frozen tundra of the East,
Right.
a good one to check out. Aubree, thank you so much for being with me today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited.
Well, normally I have another co-host, Tara, who unfortunately, because of a challenge of my own, isn't here at the moment. So we don't have her introduction, but she and I always like to start the show talking about some sort of bookish drama or a hot take or just things that are going on. And knowing that you have a hockey romance coming out here eventually, and knowing that Heated Rivalry is like the big thing being talked about now, almost in ways where people are kind of shocked about it. So, I'm just curious if you had either watched it or maybe you read the books and what your thoughts are on it.
So I have not read the books yet. I have watched the series more than once. And apparently
More
the
than
thing
once.
yes, apparently we call that reheating
I love it.
or going back to the cottage. But yes, I have watched it a couple of times. And I mean, first of all, Rachel Reed, if the books are anything at all like the show, amazing storytelling. I absolutely love how she brought these characters to life and how she didn't shy away from the tabooness, which it really shouldn't be taboo in my opinion, but the complexities that come along with these two players obviously being gay in a male-dominated sport where they just don't talk about it. It's you don't publicly announce that you're gay, and not just one character or two characters, but several of them. And there were episodes where I cried. There was just a lot of really, really good um, character development, and the producer did an amazing job with that too. And it's one of those things where rising tides rise all ships, or whatever the phrase is. It certainly helped other hockey romance authors, especially in the LGBTQ genre, to find their voice too. And it's been an amazing journey to watch.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting to have a sport, especially like hockey, because we have all the male stereotypes
Yes.
and
Yeah.
something like hockey where they're beating each other up even more than like on football, right? A lot
Right.
of fights, a lot of ramming them into the
Yeah.
side, and so to have men who are gay in it, and of course throughout history that was hidden, right? It was hidden in
Correct.
Hollywood,
Correct.
it's hidden in sport. I mean, it was
Yeah.
hidden everywhere. And
Right.
so to have it out, my understanding is that I'm not quite sure what their role is on the show in terms of producer or having adapted the books or whatever, but he is a gay man. And
Correct.
so I think in some ways was sort of able to sort of overlap his reality on
Yes.
it.
Yeah.
Because I do think sometimes people question, can a woman write this? But I'm sort of like,
Right.
if any writer out there can only write what they know, it's going to be difficult, right? I mean, I
Right.
don't know men, and there are men in my books,
Right.
like,
Right.
but I'm not a man. So, and what I find really interesting is that these are things that are still being highly consumed by women.
Yes. Yeah.
So it just shows the romance genre, which is often poo-pooed because it's women writing about women or whatever. Well, here they
Mhm.
are writing about men, and women are still fascinated. I mean, romance readers just want to read a lot of good stories about all sorts of different things taking place in different places, different times, different work,
Yeah.
which I
Well,
think is really
I
nice.
think that I think Heated Rivalry also gave men a little bit more of a voice too to come forward and say, hey, like number one, we love to read romance, or like this show is amazing, or just it gave them the courage to speak out and be their authentic selves, especially at least from what I'm seeing, mostly over on Threads. There's a whole collective group of men in the fandom who are like, this is amazing. And in a lot of the interviews with the actors and stuff like that, they have said they've had people reach out to them and tell them, thank you so much for taking on this role. It gave me the courage to come out. It gave me the courage to do this and this. And I do think, if I'm not mistaken, there was actually a hockey player who came out shortly after the show because of I don't have to hide anymore. So it's had a huge impact. And I know that there are a lot of men who have enjoyed it and a lot of men who have also like authors who have found their voice and said, okay, you know what, I'm going to write my authentic self too now. So,
Yeah. I have to tell you, my mom is 80, and my
mhm.
mom doesn't like to read romance. Not at
Okay.
all. She's a
Sure.
mystery person. She loves it. But she will watch TV. Like
Yeah.
she watched Bridgerton. So
Yeah.
she watches all that. She watched Red, White, and Royal Blue and really liked it. So I
Yeah.
was and so we talk a lot about adaptations. So I'll
Sure.
tell her
Yeah.
this is from a book because there's a lot of them now.
Absolutely.
She
Yeah.
she just watched was it The People We Meet on Vacation? She watched
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
she won't read it, but she enjoys watching it, which is weird. So I was telling her about Heated Rivalry, and I had started watching it. And my
Mhm.
only warning to her was that in the beginning, well, there's a lot of time jumps, which can
Yeah.
sometimes
Yeah.
be consuming. And I said, but it in the beginning, it just seems like a lot of hookups. And
Yeah.
I was just a little, mom's 80. I don't know how she'll
Sure.
be
Yeah.
about that, right? And then I was talking to her, and she goes, well, I checked out that Heated Rivalry. And I was like, okay, here we go. And she did sort of say, well, there's the time jumps. And then it was just sort of like, what are they doing? And but she binged the whole thing, and she says, when
Yeah.
you get to the end, it's like it's really nice.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
was like, because I was struggling the first few episodes because I really was struggling to like Elia.
Yes. Yeah.
I just was, I mean, I could understand knowing where he was coming from. I could see
Right.
his horrible father and his brother was using him. But I was like, you are just a jerk. And even
Yeah.
the other guy, Hollander, is like, you're a jerk. And then I'm like, so why are you there?
Right.
Because you're
Right.
right. He's being a jerk.
Yeah.
So, for me, that was sort of the struggle
Yeah. And I
initially.
think that can be a real testament to the author too. If you can take a character and redeem him. And I know that like during the episode where where Shane's parents find out about them and he's sitting there and he like puts his arm around him and he's like, your boyfriend's here, it's all okay. And I'm like, oh, that is the cutest thing ever. But how you were speaking about your mom and her age. So my grandmother is in her 80s. She's read every book that I've ever published. And so Pucking Forever, which was aside from the Christmas ones, would be my last release that for last year. That one or Pucking Tangled, sorry, I'm working on Pucking Forever. Pucking Tangled was a why choose. And that's not the first one that I've written. I do have another book where the two characters, it's a gay couple, and that one was a duet. The first book, they were twin brothers, and they kind of did not necessarily a parent trap, but they switched places for a little bit, and that's how they ended up finding their true love. So the first book was about the one brother who is straight, and I had dropped some hints in that book because I wanted people like I had this clear vision that the twin brother is gay, and I knew that from the get-go. And I dropped some hints because I didn't want readers to be surprised. And so I said to my grandma, I'm like, let me know. And she's like, I think I know what you were putting down, but I'm not going to say nothing because I don't want to see your face. Like, I don't want your reaction. I want to go into the next book blind and see if I was right. I was like, okay. And she was like, I knew it. I knew it. And I was like, all right. And I was like, and she was like, it was really good. And I'm like, okay, good. So then when I did this why choose one, she goes, I do have one question. And when she asked me this, it was actually release day. I went down to Maryland where she lives to play bingo with her on a Thursday night, on a Thursday night. And we're sitting in bingo, and so there's all these people her age. And she says to me, I do have one question though. How exactly did you figure all of that out? Because again, it's four guys and one girl. And yes, the boyfriends were boyfriends too. And a lot of times, especially the longer that I've written, I have a hard time separating my pen name from like who I am as a person. And I always tell everybody my pen name is authentically me with no filter. Real life me, if you know me, is a little bit more reserved, a little bit more shy. But with Aubree, I get to be who I authentically want to be. It's like putting on a costume almost. And so without thinking, I looked at her and I was like, well, it's really not any difference. It was just a couple more holes and a couple more poles. And my mom is there, and my mom's eyes go wide. And my grandmother was like, what did you say? And my mom goes, don't make her repeat that. She says, no, I think I heard her, but I want her to repeat it. So I did. And she was like, that's what I thought you said. And my mom goes, yeah, but like, how did you figure it all out? And I was like, well, I mean, how did you figure out and I'm like, Mom, just say it. And she's like, the hockey parts. I was like, that's not what you're asking. And she's like, no. And I, so I was like, I mean, the same way I figured out the hockey parts, I watched some hockey. And she's
Yeah.
like, never mind.
Yeah. Yeah.
But they read them. My grandmother said, she was like, that was a little bit too much for me. There was just too much to keep track of. She was like, it was good, and I was like, that's fine. You don't have to love everything that I write. It's sweet that you read it. And I'm like, I know that not everything that I write is going to be your cup of tea, but she's very supportive, and it's adorable because she was like, yeah, that one was a bit much.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. My mom will read. My sister and I both are writing romance, and generally she'll read it, but often she'll skip the spicy bits.
Mhm.
She's just not into that, which is weird because she'll watch it on the TV.
Right, right. I tell people, like, I told my godmother, I was like, you're more than welcome to read them. Just Aubree wrote that, not your goddaughter. Just think of it that way. And I
Yeah,
was like, and we don't talk about this at Thanksgiving. And
yeah.
but I'm like, I am who I am, and this is what it is, and it's what I write, and it works. So,
So there,
yep,
so there. Um, Now you are putting your finishing touches on Pucking Forever, which
yeah,
does have the why choose trope.
yeah.
And it seems to be growing. I mean, it
Yeah.
used to be called something else, but I guess it was determined that that had some,
Some negative
um, yeah,
connotations.
negative.
Yeah.
So now we have why choose, which is
Yep.
basically usually a woman and two or more men, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
This was Tara's question because millennials and Zoomers have less conventional relationship structures and the increasing prevalence of polyamory in the younger people, not
Yes.
so she was asking that she'd seen a number of permutations of this trope and its implementation and was wondering if you could tell us more about how you're using it in Pucking Forever.
Sure. So in Pucking Forever, um, it starts out honestly. There are two men who are in a relationship together. Again, they're both hockey players. They play on the same team. He's the veteran, or one of them is a veteran. The other one is the rookie on the team. And so like he's mentoring him. And um, the funny thing is, I started writing this right after I wrote Pucking Tangled, which came out in September. So I had already had this Russian character, which I mean is not uncommon in hockey romance anyway. Like a lot of hockey players are Russian. So um, Alec is Russian, and he's like, I this is like strictly forbidden in Russia. Like if they knew and they fall in love, and but Troy, the other male main character, he is bi, and he believes that you love who you love, and that it's not always linear or what have you, that sometimes it looks like loving more than one person. And of course, his friends on the team, the four guys from book one, they're all on the same team. When they got married, he kind of realized, hey, wait a minute, like I could have this too. Like I don't have to define myself. I don't have to put myself in a box. And so a woman comes into the picture, and they navigate that. And for me, at least right now, Pucking Tangled and Pucking Forever both end in polyamory, where the boyfriends are boyfriends, and like they're all together, they're all in love, they're all in a relationship. Um, and I think that's important for me. just because, again, I'm a hopeless romantic and I don't, and to me personally, this is not to say that this is the be all end all, but to me personally, I feel like that's the purpose of why choose. Why do I have to choose to just love one person? And that's not to say, I mean, I have read plenty of why chooses where the men are solely focused on the women. There's no other, like, there's no boyfriends in that situation, and they're great. Um, but for me, I like that unity and that kind of end game of they're all happily ever after. And that's not to say that people in relationships like that, that if they're in a relationship where they're not all together, that it's not a happily ever after. Because I've seen a few couples that, like the woman might have a boyfriend and the guy has a girlfriend and they're not, the four of them are not together kind of thing. And that's fine. To me, ultimately, love is love, and I just want to be able to showcase that. Um, so yeah, that's kind of how I use it is right now. I mean, I'm only two books into this series. Who knows where it'll take me because I do always say that I just fill out the incident report. The characters tell me what to do. I have no control over it. I could be halfway through a book and they'll be like, curveball, and I'm like, well, here we go.
Yeah. Oh, it's funny because you know how we like tropes and we don't
Yeah,
like tropes and stuff like that. I mean,
yeah,
I have some tropes that I'm like, no, I do not like those. The why choose trope, it's not that I don't like it. I'll be honest. I'm trying to, I haven't read one. I'll tell you the closest I have read in a minute.
sure,
But my universal fantasy is that destined one true love
sure.
fated may da da da
Yeah,
da da, right? Like
right,
that's my
sure.
thing. So of course the three thing or more, like it's not, and it's not that I don't like it because I actually haven't read it and I should. Because I do have some tropes I really don't
Yeah,
like. I will
yeah,
avoid them at all possible. So it's
sure.
not that, but it's just really interesting because it's like as I sit here and think about it, I'm like, but still one true love. But
Yeah,
anyways, I read this book a long time ago. I want to say it's Sylvia Day before there was 50 Shades of Grey. Before that,
yeah,
right? There was Sylvia Day, Maya Banks, and stuff. They were writing these BDSM or dom sub type
yeah,
stories. Um, and I think in some ways they were probably thankful to E.L. James, right?
sure.
In other ways, like, what the heck, right?
Yeah,
Like,
right.
we've been writing this for years. What the heck? Anyway,
Yeah,
she had a book, I think it's in the Crossfire books, where I think there's four books and the men are all friends, and at least two of them sometimes will kind of share,
sure. Yeah,
right? So there'll be one woman and they'll both be with her type of thing. And
yeah,
in this particular one I was reading, this was happening, but as things are getting kind of hot and heavy, one of them is like, nope, nope, do not want to share. You
yeah.
have to go.
Yes,
And of
yeah,
course, so that fed into my thing, right?
yeah,
Like
sure.
that one thing, right? But that's as close as I've gone.
Yeah. Well, I think, I mean, I agree with you. Like in my regular contemporary straight relationship no novels, it's that like you are my end game.
Yeah.
And so I think that's probably part of why with my twist on why choose why they all end up together because it's this at some point it's this undeniable like okay I can't live without the rest of you like and I think I hope that as readers read it, that it kind of opens their eyes to things, or just at least gives them something else to think about, right? Um, but again, it's just it for me. It was just too. It's just the way that it worked out. Love is love, and they're all one big happy family.
Yeah, and of course, what you're saying, love is love.
Yeah.
I think what we're seeing is that the reality of the world is
Yes.
that there is love is love. There are
Absolutely. Yeah.
things beyond,
Right.
one woman, one man type of thing.
Yeah.
It could
Absolutely.
be two men, one woman. It could be two women, one man. It could be
Yeah.
eight of them. It could be that is not a coercive,
Right.
force thing, but is
Yeah.
a choice
Yes. Absolutely.
type of thing. And of course, the LGBTQ and all that is the reality of the world. And what is really interesting is that romance seems to be the place
Hmm.
that begins to recognize it, begins to present it in the best way it can. Maybe it's not always
Sure. Yeah.
right, but to the point where people who a couple years ago might have been, what?
Right.
Are now like, oh, I really liked this book.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. And that, I mean, I do believe that's true. Like I said, with my grandmother, I love her dearly, but she would never have willingly picked up a book that was between two men. She read it because I wrote it, and then she's like, okay, that was not what I was expecting. That was a really good story, and kind of saw past that and things like that. And I think as a parent, that's important to me too. You know, no, my kids are teenagers now. They're 15. They still don't read my books. They are a little bit more privy to like what mom writes, that it's a little bit more spicy, and that that's why they don't read them and things like that. But I want to build a legacy that one day they can look back and go like, my mom got it. Like she was accepting of all people. She gave them a voice. And I know that sometimes authors get flack for the right way, don't try to tell our story and things like that. But I do find that the LGBTQ community to be the most welcoming, I guess I would say, with wanting their voices to be heard and being accepting of someone who's not necessarily part of the community being their voice or giving them a voice. Or and I think it's just as important when you're talking about minorities in general, that they see themselves in fiction or even nonfiction, but that they see themselves, going back to Heated Rivalry, on the big screen, on TV. It's that representation is important. um and so that's how I got here. So
Yeah, I think that's great. I think that's great. Um, Now I thought I would, well, first of all, I have to ask you this,
sure.
and then we'll move on. In the why choose trope, one of the
Sure.
things I was wondering, because a lot of times if it's a couple, two people, we write a dual point of view. So I'm
Mhm.
like, are you having to write three, four, five POV? And how hard is that?
So when I wrote Pucking Tangled, I did each character got their own point of view. And I dove into like what their specific feelings were and things like that. Um, and I have to say it was pretty difficult at first. And I laughed about it and I was like, man, like because initially, honestly, Pucking Tangled was going to be a one-off. But then, like, as I started writing, which has happened to me before, I start writing and then these other characters start talking, and I'm like, well, here we go. So it was a little bit difficult at first, but the longer that I got into the story and sat with those characters, the easier it became. Um, and in a way, it's it wasn't really that much of a difference, but again, you're keeping track of five different personalities. Um, and emotions and feelings and each one of them were uniquely different in their own way. One of them was the shy, quiet, kind of nerdy rookie of the group. One of them was a little bit older and just like his love language was sarcasm and gruff around the edges. And um, he was kind of not necessarily a bully, but a little bit to that extent where he kind of picked on the heroine a little bit, always with the best of intentions, but they just loved to rile each other up. And then Casey and Owen, they were in a male-male relationship together, and Casey is best friends with the female lead character, and that's how that kind of started when Owen was like, I think you might like her a little bit more than a friend. And so they had their own personality, like Owen was like the group dad and things like that. And Casey was like kind of just the go with the flow, laid back guy. So to put all of those together, I mean, it was really fun from a trope standpoint because you could kind of get a whole lot of them in there based off of
Right,
their
right,
personalities.
right.
But I really, really, really had to pay attention to who was who. And that's where also my critique partner was vital because sometimes she'd be like, nope, this isn't true to this character. This is this character talking. And I was like, oh, yeah, you're right. Let me fix that. So,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
I once wrote a book that had four points of view, but it was a mystery,
Yeah,
and I vowed to never do it again because it was hard to keep track of who knew what
sure.
when where, right? especially in a mystery. So I have to admire that. Now, you had also introduced me to the world of author fan fiction,
Yes.
which I had never heard about until you had told me about it. And in this case, it's where authors can write in another author's world if that author allows it. In this case, it was Susan Stoker,
Yeah.
who I would describe as writing kind of gritty, hero-centered romantic suspense. By hero-centered, I mean a lot of times they're like an FBI agent or a Navy
Yes.
SEAL or that type of thing.
Yep.
And I know that you have had several books in her world. What made you decide to do that? And do you still do that?
So I was working on my Too Hot to Handle series, which was a group of hot cops. I was working on that series, and I don't remember exactly how I ended up over there, but it was just about I part of it was at one point in time there was a group of authors that were in something what they were calling Kindle Worlds, which was where Amazon had said, "Hey, let us produce this author world for you, this fan fiction kind of world for you." And Kindle Worlds had dissolved kind of abruptly and left a lot of these authors hanging in the balance. And I don't remember, so please don't quote me on that, if Susan Stoker was part of Kindle Worlds or if she had seen this and was like, okay, I'm going to try this on my own. I don't remember for sure, but I know that all of that was happening. And as a result of that, there were also some other worlds like the Cocky Heroes Club, which was Penelope Ward and V. Cleland. They did their thing. Serena Bowen did one. Um, but the one that I felt like I kind of connected with the most, just based on the characters I was already writing, was Susan Stoker's. And so I had reached out to her and she had sent me some information and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go for it. Like I was trying to reach a new audience and things like that. And I thought, well, she has this huge group of readers, and I was watching what some of the other authors were doing in that world, and they seemed to be having pretty good success with it. And I was like, I'm just gonna do it. It was pretty low commitment, a 50-50 split kind of thing. And she published it under her Aces Press, and it got pushed out to her Aces Press readers. And I mean, it was pretty amazing. It definitely kind of took my income to the next level. And I did that. I think it was a commitment of like mm, I want to say 7 years, but I don't really think it was that long. It might have been more like three that each of your books had to be in. But I did recently, I guess tail end of last year, no, the year before, so 2024. Um, I'd wanted to write more, but there was a little bit of time in 2024 where things had kind of gotten put on hold for me writing wise. I was working a job outside of the house, which I haven't done since my kids were little, since before they were born, actually. But things were just different. I was in a different space. I wasn't able to write as much. We were fostering two of my baby cousins. And so, there wasn't a lot of time to write. And so, because I hadn't continued to write in that world, things kind of tapered off a little bit, as they do. If you're not publishing, you're not
Right.
making money. And so Susan came to me and she was like, "Hey, this is where we're at. You're more than welcome to keep them in the world, or if you would like, I can revert the rights back to you and you can republish them on your own." And so I thought about it for a little bit and I was like, I'm not really sure if I'm going to get to revisit this series because I had started out as a series within her world. So let me just go ahead and pull them and republish them, and then it is what it is. And so that's what I did. So those three books came out, and then I republished them, redid the covers a little bit. And when you republish them, obviously you have to take out her intellectual property. So I did that, and I think it was a good decision at the time. She was very clear that, like, if at some point in the future I want to come back to that and start writing in her world again, absolutely. I highly, highly recommend it. There are authors that are still within her world that publish every time her fan world publishes, which I think is like, I think she's doing it quarterly this year. Um, and they have great success with it. So I definitely it's a great opportunity, like I said, to reach new readers, especially if you already write kind of romantic suspense. There are authors who write something totally different. She's never put any stipulations on what you have to write to be in her world. So you could write aliens if you wanted to. Um, and so, but they still seem to have pretty good success as well. Um, Obviously, like the front runners are the ones that are writing the romantic suspense, but I think it's a great way to reach new readers and kind of give you a broader platform and things like that. So for sure.
Yeah, I agree in terms of getting you in front of other
Yeah,
readers.
absolutely.
Oh, it sounds ideal because you're so, I could, people are probably like, well, why would I do a 50-50 split when I did all the work, right?
Right. Well,
But part of that is her publishing house is publishing it,
yeah, absolutely.
and taking care of all that kind of stuff. But also, she does have, it's not just that it's a lot of readers, it's they're
Right.
active. She has a group
Correct.
on Facebook
Yes.
where they're talking, and when she's announcing stuff coming out, they're like, woo, 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 like,
Yeah. And us, the authors also have, so she has her core reader group and then she has her special operations group, which is for like the fandom. And that group is active. The readers are very vicarious. And there's an author who hosts a takeover for all of the authors publishing in that cycle. And so you can go in and do like a takeover for your journey or for your release. And I mean, so some people might be like, well, why would I do a 50-50 split? But I can tell you right now, I made more on those three books in that same year than I did on what I had put out. Like just those three alone had done better because they were reaching a wider audience. The biggest thing though to keep in mind, like when you're venturing into that, is if you're venturing into a fandom like that, her world is strictly KU. It pays off to have the rest of your books in KU as well, because there are some who are just readers and will read no matter what, but there are others that they are just diehard Kindle Unlimited and they're going to read them in KU, and that's fine. So it certainly makes a difference if all of your books are in KU because you will pick up readers that are going to then be with you for a lifetime if you continue to give them good words. So,
yeah, yeah, and good stories.
yep,
Now, I think you mentioned this a little bit before, but during the holidays, you had that novella release,
yep,
The Mistletoe Bay,
yes,
and you were doing weekly releases.
yep.
Kudos to you, because that just makes I just thinking about makes my head explode. And then how did you manage it without having your head explode?
So a lot of it came down to, so while we were releasing every week, it was actually I was releasing every 2 weeks. Rebecca was releasing every 2 weeks, and they alternated. So it worked out really well. And I think part of why it went so well is because we literally sat down and crafted this whole thing in like an hour, hour and a half, and had everything laid out. She's a little bit more organized than I am, which is great because we had spreadsheets and we had timelines and character names, and we were like pinging these ideas off of each other. So it was almost like a co-write, but not really because she was writing her story and I'm writing mine. But there were the character crossovers and stuff. And I think honestly, it was one of the best things for both of us. And in a lot of ways, too, like Christmas time can be really rough for me. My dad was born on Christmas. He passed away in October. Like it's been years, but he passed away in October. So from like October to February-ish is always a really tough time for me. And the holidays always feel heavy because he loved Christmas. And so it was a really nice way to keep my brain distracted. And that's probably why my head didn't explode because and in the perfect world, we actually would have been writing these all year long and then had saved them for that. But it was one of those things where I was like, hey, I was thinking about this. And I had pitched it to her for this year, for 2026. And she was like, she got so excited about it. And she goes, wait, did you mean next year? But we'd already planned everything. And I was like, at this point, we're doing it. Like,
Yeah.
we've got everything together. And so I think that was the biggest thing. And we put together our own little ARC group. We reached out to some readers and we were like people that read our stuff originally, had a nice little ARC group going. And that's what we did. We just released them and we ran ads on them. And I mean, it went really well, all things considered. Both of us hit some pretty cool goals with like hitting, I was number one in one of my categories. She was number one in one of hers at one point. It was an amazing, it was, but and again, we were working with the algorithm, we were hitting it before that drop off so that it was keeping us relevant in the store and things like that. So
Yeah, that's cool. And by ads, do you mean Facebook or Amazon?
Facebook. I've never had any luck with Amazon ads, but Facebook ads do fairly well for me. So
Yeah, I'm always up and down with those.
yeah,
You know,
yeah.
um, when I look at your Amazon page, we have these. I don't know. I guess they're little novellas. The
Hmm.
Mistletoe Bay. We've
Yep.
got the Susan Stoker books. I see a lot of sort of cowboy rancher types,
Yeah.
and now sports.
Yep.
And I'm just curious, like, it's a lot of different
It
things.
is.
How do
It
you,
is.
do these just come to you? Do you think, oh, this is popular now, I'm going to write that, or how do all these come about?
So when I started out, I kind of thought I was going to go the direction of military romance and kind of stick to that. No real reason other than I really connected with those stories as a reader. And I mean, obviously have unwavering and undying support for those who put their lives on the line for us every day. And so I had my first book was not a military romance, but one of the side characters was in the army, and I had always had plans for him to have a book. Like I had mapped out this series, and that series never really took off because I wrote the first book. I wrote the second book, which was a true military romance. And around that time, Hurricane Irma hit, and that cop photo went viral. And I was like, I'm talking to one of my friends who lives in Florida. She was another author. And I was like, wouldn't it be funny if, and plotted this novel. And I remember like it was a Saturday night, and I sat down at the computer. I had my notes, and I was up the entire night and had already written like 15,000 words in it by the time the rest of the house woke up. And I was like, okay, so I guess I'm doing this. And my thought was, okay, so this is going to be a one-off. I'm going to go back to my main series that I was working on. This is just going to be a standalone. And about halfway through, the secondary character in that book was like, no, I need a story. And I'm like, okay, here we go. And so my first series never really took off. The Too Hot to Handle series did. And a lot of that was just based on, I mean, I really truly just write whatever comes into my head. Sometimes it coincides with what's trending and hot, and sometimes it doesn't. Um, but I'd started writing the cops and like romantic suspense and military because they all kind of overlap a little bit. And then the cowboy one, that one actually, so Ranger actually 110%. I looked at that picture. The cover model, I have met him a couple of times, kind of friendly with him, Robert Kelly. He had posted that picture, and the photographer Dante Dallamore, they were doing a giveaway or something. The horse in the photo has passed away, but they had went out and did like end of life photos for the owner of the horse. And I looked at that picture and I was like, holy crap. Like I know exactly what this story is. Like I know what this story is. I know who this person is. And sometimes that happens like that. I can just be scrolling social media and it'll pop up. I mean, I have one title, Wait in the Truck, that hasn't come out yet, that got put on the back burner for a little bit, but the inspiration for that is the actual song Wait in the Truck. And that's just how it works. The inspiration, to me, inspiration is everywhere. With the hockey one, that one was, again, I saw a cover that Stacy Garcia had made, and I was like, that is a really cool cover. That would be really, really fun to write. And I hemmed and hawed over it, and I actually talked to one of my author friends because one of my best friends writes hockey romance. And so I was like, I'll never write hockey romance because that's her jam. I don't want to step on her toes. And she was like, no, that's not how this works. If that story speaks to you, write the story. She's like, don't ever hold back just because I write hockey romance. So I was like, all right, I'm gonna do it. And again, I kind of hit it right as the market started to take off because I published that, and then Heated Rivalry came out right after that. And I mean, I had no idea what Heated Rivalry was or anything. And sadly, didn't know who Rachel Reed was either until then. And then I was like, oh, I have been missing out on a lot.
Yeah, yeah.
So, I mean, a little, it just,
It's making a resurgence because
yes,
it
yeah.
feels like it was out a couple years ago. Because I remember that whole thing about the TikTok girl that was
Hmm. Hmm.
thirsting for the Kraken dude, and the Kraken
Yeah.
dude's wife is like,
Ooh,
that's a
yeah.
little too much.
Yeah.
And then, of course, recently we had the one where the main character is a female hockey broadcaster.
Hmm.
And apparently there's like 40 hockey broadcasters in the United States. Like however many teams there are, there's 40.
Yeah.
One is a woman
Right.
in
Yeah.
reality, right?
Yeah.
Her
Yes.
name is Piper.
Yeah.
And this author made her yeah, and so there was the like, okay, that's weird. So I know the hockey drama,
Yeah.
hockey romance drama, but it does seem like with Heated Rivalry it's coming around. And then of course the women and men's US teams won. So I imagine
And
it was around
I
for a little
think
bit.
as far as drama goes too, talking about the Olympics and things like that and how poorly the men's hockey team behaved afterwards, according to many.
Yes.
Um, there was a lot of like on threads mostly, a lot of drama on threads about like, this should be the end of hockey romance. And I was like, we're not going anywhere. Because here's
Yeah.
the thing you have to take into consideration is that we're writing a fantasy. So we're writing those hockey guys the way you want them to be, not the way they are in real
Yeah.
life. Um, and this is not new. Like I think with Heated Rivalry, it brought a lot of people into the sport, and then they were like, "Ew, what do you mean that it's not all like what it was in Heated Rivalry?" You're like, "We've not me personally, because I don't watch a whole lot of hockey, but I love to read hockey romance. I do.
Yeah.
But I was well aware of like these are not great guys, and so people are like, "We tried to tell you," like, but it's just
But that's what fiction is, right?
yes,
I
it's an
mean,
escape.
whether it's
Yeah,
a football romance or a
yeah,
billionaire romance,
right, right.
I mean,
Yeah.
has billionaire romance dropped? Maybe because of,
I don't think it
I don't
has though. I
know.
think when you look at the Amazon charts and you look at, the bestseller list and even like the K-Lytics reports that we can get as authors and stuff, billionaires, hockey, hockey has always been what they called evergreen. It might ebb and flow. And I think for somebody who doesn't read hockey romance all the time or whatever, it might seem like it comes and goes, but it has been a mainstream at least since 2016.
Yeah.
Um, but again, yes, it is growing in popularity because of Heated Rivalry, for sure. But, and cowboy romance was supposed to be a really hot thing. And honestly, the first book in that series, Shadow, I actually wrote an anthology during the COVID Olympics that got canceled. And it was about an equestrian who was going to the Olympics. And that one was kind of a little head nod to my daughter who does horseback riding and to her therapist who got her into horseback riding. So my kids were born prematurely. My daughter has struggled a lot over the years, and so she's always been in like OT and PT to help with that fine motor and things like that. And her OT, the program that she was in, they started doing riding therapy to where she would get up on a horse and do her OT and stuff. So my little girl was like, as a preschooler, riding bareback on a horse and reaching over to the side and picking things up and doing all kind of neat things. And so I had wrote this character kind of as a way to honor that place that we were in our lives and things like that. And the character was supposed to be going to the Olympics and ended up coming home because, of course, the Olympics got canceled the year that COVID hit. And so I had that story sitting there that the anthology run was done, and I was like, well, that could be book one in this series. Um, and then book two. I will say my core readers loved it, but it never really took off. So even though it was hot, like, and the crazy thing was like when I published it, there were people that were like into it, and I'm like, and it was really big. And then all of a sudden, I was like, well, it's not going so great for me. But I think that that happens sometimes. Um, oh, it looks like Tara's here.
Looks like
Yay!
she's coming in. I told her to jump in anytime.
Absolutely.
Oh,
Hi.
there she is.
How you doing?
Hello, hello. I'm glad you were able to hop on.
Me too.
Yeah, yeah.
So we were just talking about how cowboy romance did not work out for me.
Oh, you look like you were doing quite a stint of it for a while there.
So yeah, I had released two, and there are some, like, there's a little bit of overlap where like some of my other characters may have kind of that going on, that like small town vibe kind of going.
Mhm.
Um, but like those Shadow and Ranger, they never really took off the way I would have liked them to, and that's okay. And that's not to say that I won't go back and revisit them. Just right now, it's not on the table. So yeah.
You just never know sometimes what is going to resonate. What
Right.
you really don't know is what is going to like take off. Like
Yes, right.
sometimes,
Right. And I do think part of my downfall may have been I think readers were looking for that super hot, super spicy cowboy romance, which is fine.
Hmm.
And it's not to say that Ranger was not spicy, but I think where I got them was that it was really angsty and kind of sad because um the in the beginning of the book, the hero loses her husband and she falls for her husband's best friend.
Mm.
And so they're walking through those motions together. And I don't think that's what readers really wanted at that time. But that
Hmm.
was the story that called to me. So I wrote it. But there are people that loved it and there are people that didn't, and that's okay.
No, I like angsty. It's
Yeah.
sad that it didn't resonate.
Yeah. I mean,
Well,
some
you
readers
never
it
know
did,
if
but
it came back. Maybe
right,
you run an ad on it. I'm gonna
right,
run an
right.
ad on my backlist, and all of a sudden it's taking off gangbusters.
Yeah.
Who did
Yeah. And
something like that?
I mean, my Hot Cop series is proof to that. I had a book bub for that in January for book one. And I was like, all right, well, after this book bub runs, I'm going to start some ads on it again and just kind of see. Like, that book's been out since 2017 and it has taken off again. And I was like, all right, well, I'm glad to know that we still have readers out there for this.
Yeah.
So, because I do, which I guess you guys might get the exclusive on this, um, I have plans for next year to do some pretty cool stuff with that series because it'll be the 10th anniversary. So, some special editions and maybe some
Ooh.
character art and some fun stuff. So,
That's a good idea.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
The
Yeah,
other thing,
sounds
I've seen
interesting.
your cowboy romance ads because, of course, I follow you on Instagram.
Sure.
And what I've noticed is that it is advertised as very spicy cowboy
Yeah.
romance.
Yeah.
So I wonder if you're attracting the wrong readers.
You may very well be right. I have found that, and the reason why it seems like that's what it's attracting is I think because um that's the only thing that ads respond to. So like even when
Hmm.
we do like if you do a reel or a TikTok, they're only responding to the spicy stuff. Like you can post
Mm.
anything else, they don't care. And I'm like,
That's sad.
Which
it
is
is
hard
because I'm
though
like, there's
now, right? Because sometimes TikTok, all of a sudden you're not getting views because
yeah,
they think it's too spicy, right? And
right,
you're like,
right.
Hmm.
oh, but
Yeah.
this is what people, the algorithm should be saying they want to look at.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, that could be it. I mean, and like I said, there is spice in it, but I just think that probably when they get to the blurb, they're like, oh no, wait, no, thank you. Because it's very clear in the blurb that yeah, it is spicy, but these characters are going through it.
Mhm.
And that's okay. I mean, I totally get it. It's if that's not what somebody wants to read right then and there, then that's not what they want to read, and that's okay. So
Is it possible to do a book swap with like another angsty author or something?
yeah, I'm sure that possibility is there. I could probably do a book swap and maybe even kind of in the same vein, because one of the things that I had talked about when I released that with like my little author tribe was that at some point, like maybe on the 5-year anniversary, kind of revisiting the story a little bit, maybe having another author in that genre kind of critique it for me and be like, okay, well, this is what's working, this is what's not.
Mm.
Maybe there's some room for growth there to make it a little bit stronger. But again, it could, and then also it could just pop off on its own at some point too. So
Hmm.
yeah.
I think it'll find its readers.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah, it
But this has
finds
become like a
one thing.
strategy
Or
meeting.
a reader reads it in a way that they talk about it in a way that's slightly different or something. I mean, there's
absolutely.
a lot of things out here that build buzz, and it's like,
Yeah,
well, I didn't look at it like that.
right,
But then
right.
somebody else comes in with sort of another perspective, and you're like, oh,
Well,
okay.
and I get that a lot with like 50 Shades of Grey. That one always seemed to be like a hot topic for a long time. And it got a lot of crap for a lot of things, but for me, like I've read it and I've read it from the perspective of like understanding how messed up in the head Christian was. Like I saw it from that point of view. It was like, here is this broken man. And not everybody saw it that way. And even like my friend who like lent it to me and she's like, you need to read this and then we need to talk about it. She was like, were we reading the same book? I'm like, I think we were. I mean, I
Yeah,
read the book you gave me.
yeah,
So yeah,
yeah, yeah. Oh,
but
that's interesting. That is interesting.
yeah.
So, well, Tara, we have pretty much hit everything that I had to
We already
see.
talked about Heated Rivalry. Dang it.
We
I just saw it.
Did.
Watch
We
it.
did.
well, you can throw in
But
your two
please, I
cents.
mean, like, we can talk about that some more. I was telling Jenna that she asked if I watched it, and I said I've watched it more than once, and apparently in the fandom we call that reheating or going back to the cottage. So, um,
Do
so I was
that.
like, yes, I have watched it more than once. Yeah. Um, and I don't know, did you guys watch Saturday Night Live?
No.
I saw that the young man was on
Yes.
there that
Yes.
Mhm.
plays Ilya. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
some of his
From
monologue,
Texas. Did you know that?
yes. So every time I have seen this poor man do an interview, he opens his mouth and I'm like, where's the Russian?
Oh no.
Because he
Yeah.
taught, and I'm like, no, 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 no. Like this is not the right voice because he very much talks like from Texas, and I'm like, okay, that's. And they said that he learned Russian in like 2 weeks,
Holy crap.
and like it was crazy. So I was like, wow,
He
wow.
drops an F-bomb in Russian like a
Yes.
natural.
Yes.
Really
Like, I mean,
well.
you would think that's why I was so mind blown at first because I was like, no, like I really thought he was fluent. Like, there's no way. Um, but I haven't watched the whole thing, but I've seen clips of it and stuff. And some of his monologues was very, very funny. And gifs that have come out since then have been very interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah.
He has amazing delivery. I love
Yes.
the deep voice he does. And he also has
Yeah.
really good like comic timing. So it
Yes.
doesn't surprise me that he would be great on Saturday
Yeah.
Night Live as well.
Yeah.
Like I could see that. I actually
Yeah.
thought he was Russian, to be honest with you.
Yes, I did too. I did too. That's why I was so like dumbfounded when I first heard his first interview. I was like, whoa.
I know he's a bit of a jerk. I think Jenna said at some point that she was finding him to be a bit of a jerk.
In the show, yeah, in the
Yeah.
beginning of the show, he is
In
a
the
little bit of
first few
a
episodes,
yeah.
Hmm.
there were moments where I was, and even in the moments where I'm thinking of it, the other kid,
Yeah.
Hollander,
The Hollander. Yeah.
yeah,
Shane Hollander.
will come right out and say,
Mhm.
you are, no, you're a jerk. He doesn't use jerk, but
Sure.
Right.
Yes.
we're
You're an a-hole.
podcast going on the thing. Anyway, so,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I'm like, then why are you there?
Right. Right.
You
It's
know,
their love language. They're
Right.
like trash talking in the bedroom.
Yes.
It's hilarious.
Right. I'm used to that with
especially, I
hockey
think it
players
was
like
the
that.
second episode where Ilya had just been kind of a jerk to him. I
Mhm.
mean, like ignoring him,
Yeah.
and he went up and was like, "Are you okay?" And he's like, "Just get the." And then he follows him into the bathroom, and he's just
Mm,
being really kind of vulgar.
Yeah.
mm.
Yet this kid goes up to the room, and he's
Mhm.
just, and I'm just like, "Why are you subjecting yourself to this?" Like, I just wasn't getting it. But when I see him with his father,
Hmm.
calls from his boat. So, I mean, there is the elements are there where you're kind of understanding and
Yeah.
trying to not just be, this
Yeah.
is just a jerk Russian a-hole
Yeah.
hockey player, but
And
there's
I
a
do.
lot going on that, and so you're trying to be open. I remember in Red, White, and Royal Blue when I read the book, this was not in the show. When I read the book, I remember it took me a while I remember thinking the first son is ridiculous,
Right.
Mm,
and it took me a while. But then that was actually part of what was going on, right? Him
mm.
coming through that.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And I think that Isla kind of redeems himself a little bit later on. And he softens some,
Yeah.
especially for him. And some of like their antics, I'm like, these are just they're just boys. They're
Yeah.
just boys. But and their relationship, friendship that they seem to have off screen and stuff, like going back to SNL, apparently he had said in an interview, they were like, they asked him if, and I can never keep their real life names um correct. So he asked him if Shane was coming to see him, and he was like, no, I don't think he'll be there. And he was like, but that would be like the best surprise ever would be to share that moment with him. So if he just like showed up unannounced. So during one of the skits, he had no idea. And here he comes skating out on the ice. And to see
No,
the genuine surprise on his face, I was like, oh my goodness.
that's cute. I love
I
Yeah.
that.
love stuff
So,
like that. Yeah, earlier, Aubree shared a moment later in the season
yeah.
when, he sort of puts his arm around him and your boyfriend's here type of thing. I mean, I love stuff like that. Those are the moments I live
And
for.
I think part of the reason why like a lot of us are rewatching it more than once is also when you watch it the second time around, you start to notice little things. So like in some of the interviews, yeah, he's a real jerk, but in some of the interviews like where they zoom down to their feet, he
Yeah.
kind of nudges him with his foot a little bit.
Oh yeah.
And so like that one where they were at dinner with the parents, he's having a panic attack as he puts his arm around him and he's whispering to him and
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I think you can even on the first watch, you can really see their connection.
Yes.
I think.
Yeah.
No, it's pretty obvious to me. And
Yeah.
I think Ilya comes by his issues, honestly. I mean, they do
Yeah,
notice in the
absolutely.
show that being in Russia in the this is like we're talking late aughts, early 20
Yeah.
teens. as a
Yeah.
gay man was dangerous. I mean, they had
Yeah.
like gangs of people would beat people to
Yeah.
death if they
Yeah.
found out that they were gay, in some cases in Moscow. So not out in the sticks. So like that's all there. Like that's
Yeah.
all real. So
Yeah.
when Jane Hollander comes up to him at the Sochi Olympics and tries to talk to him, I can see why he's like, get away from me. I don't want anyone to figure out that we're a
Right.
thing. Because that's not
Because
just
if you
dangerous
look at each
for me,
other,
but
you can
you.
tell.
Yeah.
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 Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
people are making jokes about it. And like my favorite thing was when they're in the locker room and they're texting each other, and Ilya is in his locker room and his buddy looks at him and he's like, "This girl's really got you strung out. Like you're
Yeah.
blushing." He's like, "I don't blush. Russians don't blush. I've never
Right.
blushed in my
Yeah.
life."
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Such a
Yeah.
Russian thing
I
to
remember that.
say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And of course, in the phones, they're listed as Jane and,
Yes.
yeah,
Right. They've
Yeah,
given each
Jane and
other pet
Lily.
names. But yeah.
sort
Yeah.
of their cover,
Yeah.
which is sad, but hopefully, we'll keep moving forward and things like this
Yeah.
will change because, yeah, it's a sweet thing, but I
Yeah.
did struggle in the beginning with it.
Yeah.
Just
I want to read the books, but I cannot read them while I'm currently writing hockey because it just will not.
Yeah, and it's hard to, and it's sometimes it's hard to read. I used to like to read the books before the show comes out, and sometimes I still do that. Like I've
Yeah.
done that with Bridgerton. And
Yeah.
so even in the most recent thing, I remember being a little worried. I was really happy with the changes they made from the book in the season this year. So, but sometimes you're sort of like, oh, wait a minute, this is different. That can be hard sometimes.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
a comedian, what's her name? Kathleen Madigan. She
Mhm.
has this joke where people will say, the movie isn't as good as the book. And they're so
Endless.
disappointed, like the
Yeah.
book was better. And
Yeah.
her response is like, well, that's what you get for reading.
I hate that knee jerk response. I feel
Right.
like it's
Yeah.
like a thing that people feel like they have to say every single time. The book was better than the movie. And a lot of times it's not that. It's that the movie's different from the movie.
Right. It's
Yeah.
different. It's not better or worse.
It's
It's
an
different.
adaptation. Sometimes it is
Yeah.
genuinely the case that like
Right.
this book and this movie are not the
They're
same
not the
thing in
same.
any way, and like one is cheapening the other in some way. Like
Yeah.
I've heard some
And one
nasty
can,
things about the most recent Wuthering Heights adaptation, for
Yes. Yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
we won't even go there. But most of the Wuthering Heights adaptations are not, like, it's not even the book.
Not even the
Right.
full book. Yeah, it's
You
so
it's
common
just
for
like
Wuthering
part
Heights.
of the book, right? Like,
Right.
so yeah, that's a whole.
And that was why there were so many time jumps in Heated Rivalry in the show, because he wanted to cram in as much as he could out of these books and give as much life. I really think that entire pairing, from the casting to the director to all of it, I think they knocked it out of the park. I really do. And like I said, I haven't read the books yet. When I'm not writing hockey romance, I will. But I have a
No,
hard
I think
time.
Heated Rivalry was the second book.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
What is the first one? What's
First
the
book is
first
about
one?
a hockey player and a barista, I think. And I think they appear.
Yes.
Yeah.
So yeah, so it's about the other couple. Let me see.
Yeah.
I think it was Long Game, maybe.
Is it a
Yeah,
barista if it's a man?
I think
Is
so.
it
Yeah.
barista?
Yeah.
I don't
We never
know.
use that in Starbucks. You're just a barista.
I know. Like, and what if there are many of them? Baristas?
Baristas? What's the declension on barista? No, don't do this to me.
Plural for barista.
Barista? Barista?
Masculine plural baristi.
Baristos? I think it's just this
All right,
sounds
so
Italian. I think it's just
yeah,
baristas and baristos.
I think so too. So for the first book was Game Changer,
Yes.
and that was Scott and Kip, which was the barista and the hockey player. And I really loved them. They were like, honestly, I loved their story just as much. I would have liked to have seen more from them. But yeah, it's Game Changer, Heated Rivalry, Tough Guy, Common Goal, Role Model, Long Game, and Unrivaled. And I
There's
think
a bunch.
I think she's now writing another book.
Yeah.
Or Unrivaled might be book 7. She just announced that she's going to write one more book for these
Are
guys.
these all different couples or same couple? What are we talking
So
about here?
I think that Game Changer and Long Game are both the same couple, but I think other than that, they're different couples. I think is what.
Oh,
Yeah,
Yeah. And she's a Canadian author, I believe. So
she is.
yeah.
She is.
I had to write hockey romance for my client when I was ghostwriting.
oh yeah.
So I had to learn a little bit about hockey.
Yeah.
I didn't know you wrote hockey romance. I thought it was all mafia.
No, that was just the last year or whatever. Before that, it was a lot of other stuff, and one of them was a lot of billionaire, mostly billionaire,
Mm.
Yeah.
Mm.
with a secret child. That's the trope I
Yeah.
hate,
Holy.
Aubree. Um,
Okay.
but uh, but yeah, I had to do some hockey ones, and so I had to go out and learn a little bit about hockey.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, because this you don't have to know the minute details, but when you're writing, you have to know enough that somebody who loves hockey doesn't say, "Wait a minute, they
Yeah.
don't draft in whatever month
Yeah.
you think they're drafting in, or they
You know,
don't." Yeah,
I did learn the hard way that you could be an expert and somebody is still going to tell you you're doing it wrong. So
yeah,
Mm.
yeah,
back like when I was writing in the 425 Madison miniseries, I had a reader who said I didn't know anything about police officers and that a police officer would never fire his gun.
What?
never.
That's
Yeah.
cute. That's
I was
very
like,
cute.
and yeah, it was apparently she's from a small town. And I was like, okay,
Mm.
well, maybe in your small town. But this was in New York City. And a retired New York City cop read over the scenes for me to ensure accuracy and gave me feedback. So,
Wow.
but
Yeah,
you
Does
know,
this person never like watch TV?
I don't know. I
Oh my
just I have
God.
no idea. I was like, okay, I think it's more so that I'm just not the author for you. Because
Mm.
I mean, I had a reader one time, all of my reviews that she left me, God love her. She was like, there was a lot of cussing and a lot of explicit sex. And I was like, yeah, that's what I write.
Hmm.
But
yeah,
she always, I mean, they were great reviews, but she always made note of that. And I was like, well,
yeah.
I
that's
need
what,
to put at the front of my books, content warning, F-bombs.
Even when they do you, man, I had somebody who wanted to give me a 1 star once because I wrote in third person.
oh my gosh.
Now, the
Yeah,
description is in third person.
yeah.
I
Yeah.
actually in the editorial part on
Mhm.
Author Central, I
Mhm.
actually put like a snippet from
Yeah,
the opening chapter.
yeah,
They could read that it was in third person. Now
yeah,
they gave me 3 stars because it was good. It was just in third person.
yeah. There are some people who just, and like, I have a hard time because my Susan Stoker books were third person
Yeah,
because that is what she writes in. And I was like, okay,
yeah,
well, I'm going to try to like match as much as I can. And one of my author friends was like, your voice is so much stronger in third person. And I was like, okay. Meanwhile, the other series, the other Hot Cop series that I'm writing is all in first person. And
yeah,
and so it just depends. And then like the hockey series that I'm writing is in third person. And there are some people who won't read it just because it's in third. And for
yeah,
me, like I admit I am one of those readers where yes, I can tell the difference. But I can read something and it doesn't bother me. Like I can read it in first, I can read it in third. My downfall, and my editor knows this, is I can read the same paragraph 3 times and my brain will process it as it is supposed to be written. I will not see any of the typos or the misspellings or anything. I just don't see them. And so even like people are like, "Oh, this book was so poorly edited." Like when you're reading somebody else's book and you look at the reviews and I'm like, "I didn't think it was." Well, maybe it was and I just didn't see any
yeah.
of it.
Man, how do I get that superpower?
I'm
And,
the same way.
you
And
know,
I think most writers are because what you're reading is what you intended
yes.
to have,
Right.
right? So
Right.
that's
Yeah.
what you are reading. Tara's an editor, uh,
Okay.
I read
and
like an editor, unfortunately, which means I'm
she does.
hypercritical
She finds all
and my
sorts of stuff.
brain is t attacking me constantly. This is not a good place to be to read like an editor. It's much
So
more enjoyable to read like a reader.
yeah. When you're reading for fun, do you have like do you sometimes have to remind yourself like don't or like when you're finished be like, okay, I can't be that critical. Like I read this as an editor. Like do you have to tell
Oh, I
yourself
never leave reviews that are super critical of that kind of stuff. I might note like, hey,
yeah.
needed some commas, but also there's a certain amount of like I know I'm like this, and also I'm like a PhD in English, so like of course I am gonna be like I want to add commas, right? But like I
Yeah.
also know that like most people aren't, right? So I'm just gonna be like,
Right. Right.
do I want to sprinkle commas in? Sure. Do I always? Also sure. So it's fine. You know,
Yeah.
it's to me it's not a big deal. It's just
Yeah.
other editors are different or they miss something. Everyone's human. You know, to give something a four to sorry, to give it something like a 1 star because of commas seems absolutely
Right.
brutal and
Right.
stupid to me.
Well, and that I think that's good and I think that's fair because not everybody is like that either. Like people will just they'll 1 star you. I am guilty of. If I get a 1 star, you can bet your bottom dollar I am clicking on that little hyperlink and I'm going to look at all of your reviews. Because if you 1 starred everybody, then I know that you're a chronic 1 star
Mm,
person. But
yeah.
Yeah, if it's just me,
Right.
wait,
Then I know I need to take some of
yeah.
this to heart and like it's constructive or whatever. But if you one star everybody or everybody except for a few certain authors, then I know that it's not just me. So
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
it's actually that kind
Or
of
the
stuff.
mar
That's not the stuff I give low reviews for. It's like impatience or like bad pacing and like, big, we call higher order concerns in
yeah,
writing team. Like the big structural stuff, then we have a problem.
yeah,
For the
That
wrong
stuff bugs
reader.
me.
I mean, I recovered a series of books because I was afraid they would come off too much cozy mystery with
yeah,
Mm,
spicy bits in it, right? So I
yeah,
recovered them to gear more towards romance readers. So
yeah,
now I'm not getting the comments like,
yeah,
well, I don't know why there was spicy bits in here.
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because the cover now reeks romance, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just like what Aubree was saying about the cowboy role. I think sometimes you're just not finding your readers.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, one of the things that we talk about a lot as authors too is you can have an amazing release and the follow-up book it won't flop, but it won't be as great as that first release was. At least not right away. It might be more of a long-term gain kind of thing. And two, to that credit, I think that's part of where I'm at with writing Pucking Forever is because I've gotten in my head, like book one did so well, and I'm like, well, now I have to follow up on that. And like, how do I pull this off? And um, I think I've rewritten the beginning of it 4 times. And again, it was due the end of January and I'm not done. Uh,
Mm.
and so just last week, I was talking to my critique partner and I was like, you are going to beat me. And she's like, what are you doing? And I was like, I think I have to rewrite the beginning again. And she was like,
Oh
okay,
no.
well, actually, and like when I told her my plan for execution, she was like, well, if you follow the outline this time, I think you're on the right track.
Ouch.
Yeah. If you're not
Burn.
going to follow the map, of course you're
Yeah.
going to end off somewhere else.
Right. Yeah. But I mean, I was struggling so hard because I felt bad because Pucking Tangled, I was telling Jenna, Pucking Tangled was 4 guys and 1 girl. This one is 2 guys and 1 girl. The guys are together in the beginning, and then the girl comes into the fold. And
Right.
as it was written up until I changed it again, just last week, when she came into the fold, I was like, I feel like this isn't like it was supposed to be one of these things where Troy, the one main character, is bi, and he's kind of been crushing on Brooke for a little bit, and but like more playfully, like more friendly, like whatever. And then he's with Alec, and Alec is the rookie on the team. He's from Russia. There are some similarities there, and he like they're very much like non-committal with each other, but they're very much in a relationship. They're very much exclusive, but they're playing this game of we're not together kind of thing. And when Brooke got introduced, I was like, I feel like I'm just using her for a plot device, and that wasn't what she was supposed to
Mm.
be. She's supposed to be, because like I was telling Jenna, with my version of why I choose the happily ever after is that the whole group is together. So more
Yeah.
polyamory versus and that's how I am doing it at the moment. Will that change somewhere down the line? It might. Um, but right now I like that pairing and that being the happy ending. And so I was like, it doesn't feel right if she's just the plot device. Like I need this to feel genuine, like she is meant to be a part of their circle.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, if I did this, it would make more sense and it would feel more intentional. So
Yeah. I think that's good. I mean, you gotta rework it until it's right.
yeah,
Yeah. I think it's awesome. I read it like a cozy Omegaverse last year just to figure out what that was,
yeah,
right? And
yeah,
it had a pack, right? And the pack of guys were like a family, but they weren't together. Like there was
right,
no, they weren't
right,
in like a relationship with each other. And they all got in a
right,
relationship with their one Omega, which
yeah,
felt like a lot of wish fulfillment to me, but didn't
right,
make a whole lot of sense. And it also felt borderline homophobic. Like, oh, there's
right,
no, the guys are not together. No, don't
right,
worry about that.
right, yeah. And that was so like with Pucking Tangled, the 4 guys, they share a house together. The one of the guys is the team captain. The rookie lives with them, and then there's Casey and Waylon, and Waylon is kind of sort of the bully, but he's not really a bully. Like they just him and the heroine, they thrive on that. Owen and Casey are in a relationship when the book starts. And the other 3 they're just roommates and they don't care that those 2 are together. Like they're fine with it, very open to it. And then the heroine, Maya, she moves in with them because she's in her last year of college and she wants to do like entertainment law or whatever. And she's Casey's best friend. She's known Casey since they were children and they grew up together. And so she ends up moving in with them because they're like, well, we're hardly ever home during the season and you'll be in school. So like, why don't you just stay here? And Casey's excuse is they have a dog. And so he's like, then I don't have to like pay for a dog sitter and like you can take care of the dog and the dog loves you and blah, blah, blah. And so that was kind of how that started. And she just like melted into their world seamlessly. And it's not working this way the next one.
Yeah.
But
What I'm
so
liking about the why choose trope is it seems to me like you can do a bunch of different tropes.
yes.
Like over here, we have friends to lovers. Over here, we've
Right.
got like
Right.
this, like we've got like two people who are meeting each other for the first time who
Right.
are
Right.
like coming together. Like you can do a lot of
Yeah.
different things.
Yeah. So like in that one book, I had like the enemies to lovers, which was kind of Waylon and Maya, the best friends
Mhm.
to lovers, the virgin hero, because the rookie is a virgin. And that was really interesting because they're all like, they, the funny thing was the guys, they have these team meetings like at the house or like house meetings. And so as they start to realize that, oh shit, all of us like her, they have this meeting and they're like, all right, so listen. And that's when they realize that their poor little rookie is a virgin. And of course, Waylon is like, are you serious right now? He's like, there's no way. What do you mean? Like,
I love they need a team meeting for it. I'm imagining like a chore chart for
well,
time with the girl.
so they actually like so right after that, like they had come to an agreement about like because they were like, well, she's probably not going to want to be with all of us, right? So they come to an agreement that they will each get to have their fair shake to make things happen and see where it
Mhm.
goes. But then they decide they need house rules. So she comes in one night and Owen, because he's like the team dad, because he's the captain. So he's, all right, we're gonna sit down and we're gonna come up with some house rules. That was probably my favorite part to write was like the house rules. And so they're doing
Sounds
the
great.
house rules and like number one was like you always have to wear clothes in the house because there was an incident where Maya bumped into Waylon in the hallway and his towel fell off. And so they
Uh,
were like, from now on, everybody wears clothes.
I'm shocked
Um,
they didn't actually make that rule already. I've lived with my
right,
sister, and that rule was very
right.
important.
But it was so funny. Like I laughed so hard putting these together because then like they're having it as like the team meeting and they're discussing the rules and stuff. And every rule Waylon like had an objection to. And he's like always keep your clothes on unless somebody asks you to take them off. And he would write it. And she's looking at him like, stop. Like, what is wrong with you?
Oh, wait, no,
You
I saw
know?
you made a graphic of this. It was so funny.
Yes,
That's what this
yes,
was. Oh,
yes.
that was great. That was really
Yes.
good.
Like I loved the house rules. They were so funny. And like the one about don't take too long in the bathroom, but if somebody's been in the bathroom for this long, don't knock, don't ask questions. Like and then like Waylon is just he's such a troublemaker, but he was so much fun to write though, because he like she goes out to take the dog out for a walk and he texts her and he's like, you do know we can see you on the doorbell camera, right? Like, what's the rule about no clothes? It looks like you like your booty shorts look like underwear. I can see cheek. And she's like, ew.
Excuse you.
Right. She was like, that doesn't sound creepy at all, you know?
Yeah,
Just spying
yeah,
on her on the freaking ring
yeah.
camera.
Right,
I'm looking
Rude.
at my ass, right?
right. So,
Your eyes are up here.
right. And it like their whole progression of how each one of them like developed their relationship. And I think a lot of white shoes that I've read, it's always just been they're always thrown in together right away. Where this one, I mean, like, it's chunky,
Yeah.
Looks
chunky
fine
little
to me.
baby.
Is that
Um,
chunky? I think that seems perfectly
good.
comparable to me. I don't know.
Well, I
My
guess
sense
I
of
mean,
chunky is off.
so like in comparison to like Hot Cop, like that's
Mm, mm.
so. But it needed to be because they each got to develop their own relationship with her first, and then kind of together. And they go away like after news breaks. There's a reporter like gets a hold of a picture of all of them out enjoying a day together and like publishes something really nasty about them.
Oh,
And that's how the news breaks of what happened. And so they've all got to decide how they're going to handle it from here. And they're like, well, I guess first we should tell our family, although our phones are blowing up. Like our family knows now. And everybody's family was pretty cool with it, except for Waylon's, which they knew. Like Waylon knew his parents weren't going to be okay with it. And he didn't have a great relationship with them anyway. But they go to Texas because I also love to do like little crossovers to other series and stuff. So they go to Texas and go to a winery that is owned by one of the girls from my Susan Stoker books.
Oh, cool. You have like an Aubrey verse.
Yeah, yeah. So
Cute.
they go over to they go to the winery there and stuff, and they let Luca, the virgin, book the Airbnb. And they pull up to the Airbnb, and Waylon is like, "Did you read the description?" And he's like, "Yes, it said romantic, blah 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 blah." And they open it up, like they open the door, and there's like restraints and paraphernalia, and he's like,
The Dungeon B&B.
yes, yes. And he's like, what? And they're all laughing at him because he's like, he's not like picking up on it yet. And she's like, oh, my sweet, sweet, sweet little, naive little friend. And that's when the first time that like him and Waylon connect. And rather than him being like all grossed out and stuff, he freaks out a little bit because he's like, I didn't expect this. And Waylon's like, we don't have to put a label on it. We can all just love each other,
Hmm, I like that.
And then, so yeah.
I had to know, did you like look this up and find out that there was like a BDSM Airbnb somewhere in the United States?
There is because I've gotten ads for it on my Facebook.
That's great.
And that's where the inspiration came from because like when you like it looks kind of platonic at first until you click on the ad. And then yeah, yeah, that was fun. I was like, oh, this will be perfect. And then they're having dinner and like his dad is like, so where are you staying? And everybody starts laughing and he's like, stop. And they're like, no, for real, where are you staying? And then they tell him, and his dad goes, oh, me and your mom have been wanting to try that place. And he's like, no.
No. It's a bondage and breakfast.
Right. Exactly. So yeah.
That's back to what we talked about a little bit earlier, where what goes on in the real world
Right.
is more
Yeah.
vast and diverse and
Yeah.
open whatever.
Yeah.
And in romance is exposing a lot of that. Exposing is
Yeah.
not the right word, but they are seeing it and they're writing it and including it, which is great, right?
Yeah. Because it starts those conversations. Yeah.
Yeah. Romance is very much a progressive genre in a lot of ways, you know, because like you can show different kinds of love and those are the rules, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep. Absolutely.
So what are you guys reading right now? What do you recommend? And what's your favorite thing that you're reading?
I am not currently reading anything at the moment, but my most recent read that I think everybody should read, it's by Gwen McNamee, and it is The Sweetest Lie Duet. My Sweetest Agony and My Sweetest Obsession are the two books, and it is amazing, but it will wreck you. So like you said, you liked angst. She is your girl. She is like the queen of angst to me. So she's amazing. And that book, those two books will stick with me forever, for sure.
That's great. I love that.
Yeah.
Jenna?
Being destroyed. I don't know right now that I want to read books that destroy me, but okay.
This will make you cry. Read it.
Some things,
Recreational
right?
destruction.
Right. Yeah, it's all things. Watching a movie, watching TV. It's like, that looks really good. I want to watch it. Not right now.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had COVID last week and it came with a headache, so I couldn't read or watch anything. So I'm like really behind on my reading, but I did do my book of the month order called Lady Tremaine. I did it today for March, and it is a Cinderella retelling from the stepmom's point of view.
Ooh.
Now, I don't think it's a romance.
Right.
The debut author, I cannot remember their name, but it sounded really interesting. Retellings can be really fun, especially from the quote unquote villain's point of view, right?
Yeah. I'm curious about that. Isn't Lady Tremaine the Disney name for the stepmother, or is that generic?
I don't know. I mean, it was on my book of the month. It was one of my choice. It wasn't the romance choice. The romance choice did look fun. But it was an author, not an author. Her father was an author. She's going to finish the book. They send the editor out to make her finish it in Ireland or something. I mean, it looked like fun. But when I saw a retelling of Cinderella from stepmommy's point of view, I thought, oh, that looks like fun. So
especially right after watching season 4 of Bridgerton.
Exactly.
Right.
Bridgerton, which is, the Cinderella retelling. Yeah. So.
Yeah. Speaking of Jenna here, I'm actually reading With This Ring I Do Thee Kill
Woohoo.
right now. Yes, I'm very worried for them. They're getting attacked left and right over this ring. Getting dangerous. But I like it. It's got kind of almost a romantic suspense vibe going because like this ring is so dangerous. And
Yeah.
also like I like the stuff about like there's some cool like French history around the ring. That's really interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When I wrote that was around the time that they determined that the Hope Diamond was actually a cutting from the French blue, which
Mm.
Ooh.
was lost during the French Revolution. It
Oh,
was
Oh, wow.
that time that they actually were able to scientifically determine that, yes, the Hope Diamond was part of that. So it was pretty exciting. And I remember emailing the guy who was doing a lot of the research because I was asking some other questions around it. And one of the things I wanted to do in that book, he was like, no, that wouldn't happen. And I was like, well, too bad I'm doing it because I can do that as an author,
Right.
right? Like, so I did take some liberties.
Jenna's like, I'll do what I want.
I'm
That's
going to do
right.
what I want. But anyway, so that was really cool. This third book in the series, and that was when I
Mhm.
was really feeling like I'm finding my stride. Like the
Yeah,
writing is
it's
still
yeah,
probably not great, but I'm really finding their connection and, all the things. So I hope you enjoy it.
I am.
You will tell me.
It's found its
Disney,
groove.
I have to thank you, Aubree, for being here. You've been
Oh,
here
of
a
course.
lot
Thank you
longer
guys for
probably
having
than
me.
you planned.
Yeah, thank you for
Yeah.
waiting for me. I'm
So
so sorry.
No, not at all. Not at all. I
chatting
appreciate
and talking. It's just so fun to talk
it.
to authors and readers, especially about romance, especially now because it used to be, you didn't talk about it out
Right.
in the open,
Right.
right? Because
Yeah.
people make fun of romance and all that kind of stuff. Unless, of course, it's hockey men and then they're all for it, right?
I know I noticed that.
Yeah, really excited about your hockey books coming out. So
Mhm.
everybody's going to go check them out. And Tara, do you want to go ahead and lead us out of here?
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you, Aubrey, so much. We really appreciate having you here. I hope we'll see you in a future anthology, maybe a
I would love that.
small
Yeah.
anthology hockey romance or something at some point. That would be super fun. But yeah, we appreciate you being here. All right,
Absolutely.
folks, if you want to join us for a future anthology and you're a romance writer, just know that we have Fantastical Foes opening in April and Starlit and Spellbound, our big anthology for the fall, opening in May. We also have the release of Pause and Peril at the end of this month on March 30th. And then we will have Fireworks and Flirtation, which I'm now struggling to say, in May on May 18th. You can join us on Substack and learn all about romance and get weekly articles from Jenna and from myself and other guests. That's going to be Tender and Tempting Tales on Substack, and also follow us on Instagram. That's Tender Tempting Tales at Instagram. And of course, you can join our newsletter and get a free story by Jenna Hart. That's It's About Damn Time. And in the meanwhile, Jenna,
Well, I want to thank everybody for listening, Aubree for being here. And
I
until
miss
next
you.
time, it's Jenna Hart wishing you peace, love, and happily ever after.